In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be JudieLynn Nassar McAvinney, and she's the president and CEO of Whitehaven Memorial Parks in Rochester. And we'll be talking about Whitehaven and talking about the certainty of death and taxes. Join us for the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. I have a very nice show today and my guest is JudieLynn Nassar McAvinney and JLynn for short, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us today. You're president and CEO
of
Whitehaven Memorial Parks in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
So delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
I said earlier the certainty is taxes and death, and if we can be in a resting place in a beautiful environment, then that would be very nice. Although we won't be around for our survivors, it's a nice place to visit. So tell us about Whitehaven Memorial Park.
Well, it is, for me, really one of the most beautiful parks that I have had the opportunity to visit and then work for. And I say park because that's what makes it so unique. So when you go to a traditional cemetery, I think you walk in, you take a look at your surroundings, and you're hit with so much granite. You know, you've got the headstones, the obelisks, the mausoleums, and it's kind of over sensory stimulation because it's like, whoa, where do I go next? But when you go to Whitehaven, really all you see is beautiful, beautiful lawns. Trees, the natural resources, the animals. It's just absolutely very peaceful and very park-like. And I think that was the whole idea when they created Whitehaven, was to do it as a planned park versus a traditional cemetery. So your sight lines are clean and your stones are flat. And ideally, I think there was some philosophy behind that too, as well as, you know, the uniqueness of the park, but their philosophy was, you know, that in death, everybody's equal. Mm. And I think that really was very striking for me. I liked that concept to know that, you know what, they adhered to that, and as we go forward with development, we keep that in mind.
Mm, that's great. I never thought of that, and it sure is the case. I mean, life, but anyway, it's wonderful. And as you're speaking about it, I've been to Whitehaven many times, and I picture this and the beauty of it as you described it. You know.
So with it, you know, we have just, you know, the rolling grass, the nature trails. We are the last hardwood forest in Perrington. I don't think a lot of people know that fun fact. So in our development, we try to keep all of that into consideration.
And how big is it? I mean, it's
165 acres.
165 acres. Oh my goodness!
It's
wow.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
In comparison, I mean, there are cemeteries that are much, much bigger than we are, but we're a good size.
Yes, yes. And it's a non-for-profit.
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell us how it's operated.
So we have lot owners. So they are the people that purchase the property, and so they're our members. We are managed through a board of directors, and it's really an organization made up of members. So they are part of the whole unit, and they come to a meeting once a year. They're welcome to an annual meeting where we share what we're doing. We have a full staff of sales staff, management staff, then the outside crew staff. And we have a crematory, so we operate that as well.
I see. Okay.
So there's several facets.
All right, yeah. And so it's also an Audubon certified sanctuary.
Yes.
That's big.
It is. It's an Audubon cooperative sanctuary. And to say a little bit about that, we became Audubon certified 25 years ago. At this point, we're the longest standing member. And we were the first in the entire world, the cemetery, to be Audubon certified.
Huh. What does that mean, to be Audubon certified?
I think if you look at natural resources, it's really to celebrate nature and to keep it protected.
I see.
And the wildlife. So anytime we build, we always make sure that we keep it in mind. So what do we have to support that? We do bluebird fledging, so we protect the bluebirds. We have now gone into monarch, the monarch butterfly, and we try to help through the migration process. So we have monarch way stations, and anytime we do a bed, a flower bed, we are, preparing it with butterfly type of bushes, things that would attract the butterfly. We have all kinds of wonderful birds and animals. We have obviously the foxes, and there's geese, and there's deer. We have lots of deer. And we've found some coyotes as well. They've been kind of meandering around. So as we develop, we want to protect all of those resources. So we put up the owl houses, we have bat houses, bluebird houses.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's incredible. That's
and then we
terrific.
have nature trails. We have a nature trail in the back. We've done some burials with that. And that was kind of, we pioneered in that realm because I think it was in 1970. Our past president, Andrea Vidham, had this wonderful brainstorm that why don't we use our nature trails and see if we can, utilize them for burials, cremation burials. So you can go through these trails and you see beautiful rocks. They're quarried rocks.
Okay.
With people being buried there, but they're going through the forest trails. They go over the streams.
Oh my goodness.
You can sit in beautiful benches and hear the waterfalls. There's a lot of water. We have ponds and fountains and koi.
Oh my goodness. I've never been to that section.
You have to take a walk.
Yes, yes.
It's really very, very beautiful.
Oh, how wonderful is that? So it truly is like a park. It is a park. Yeah.
So every 3 to 5 years, we have to be recertified by the Audubon Society, and they really like us. So we're pleased to be part of that. And in addition, we're an Arboretum 1, and that means basically that we have trees that we take care of. They're labeled, they're categorized. We keep them in a tree maintenance system, and actually you can get on the website and do a tour of all the trees that we have at Whitehaven.
Oh my goodness.
So that helps us to keep our Arboretum status.
I see, I see. So and with the Audubon, I see what you mean, like with 25 years, because the one may not keep up with being certified if they have to do it every 3 years. Oh, that's remarkable.
It is. Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, should be.
Yeah, and the staff is too.
Yeah.
And I think we're heading toward a smoke-free environment as well.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
oh, wow.
So that's our next step.
Oh, I'm impressed. I got to go there and visit. Usually I visit because there's a burial that's happening or a celebration.
Nannette, anytime you want to take an actual tour, I would be happy to walk you through Whitehaven.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. That's wonderful. Now, tell me how you personally got involved with Whitehaven.
That's a story.
To hear it, because you were with the city.
I was with the city,
yes.
and part of my responsibilities through Park Recreation and Human Services was to work with the cemeteries, and that was Mount Hope and Riverside. But my connection with Whitehaven really was with the past president, Andrea Vidham and Al Vidham. I knew them personally for very, very many years, and they had asked me to sit on the board, and I did. And then Andrea was thinking about transitioning into retirement and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Okay." But we had about 4 years to kind of work together to transition into it, and since I think 2018, I took over Whitehaven.
I see. That's great. It sounds like you bring a lot of joy to the place, and it sounds like you also love being. So it's great. It's a great partnership.
It is.
That is wonderful.
I think when people think of cemeteries, they think of obviously death and dying, but they think of it in a very morbid, sad way. But we have so much life at the park that's what we celebrate.
Sure, a celebration of life and the people who are survivors who come and enjoy the place.
And they do. And I think a lot of our philosophy too is that we invite people to come all the time. Come, walk the park. We have bikers, we have runners, we have people on scooters, and we're pet friendly, so they bring their dogs. And we've heard time and again when people are ready to buy property, let's say their loved one passed away, they'll tell us, you know, they walk to this park all the time. They love it here, so it makes sense for them to, you know, spend, you know, eternity here as well.
Sure.
And I think that's really nice. We love to hear that.
Sure. And then it's a flat surface, but there's also structures, right, where people can have the...
We have mausoleums.
Mausoleums, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have mausoleums. You know, it's interesting because early on, you know, the only type of burial was, you know, gravesite burial. And then mausoleums came into the picture. So people liked the idea of being interned above ground. So, you know, we started to build, and we have several mausoleums now, and we're in the process of creating a new project called Edgewood, and that's going to be a combination of hopefully 12 new mausoleums. It's going to take about 20 years to build, but that's our next huge project.
Right in the park?
Right in the park, yes,
Oh,
on the
wow.
back side of the park. But we have 2 chapels, so people
yes.
can do services right on campus.
Sure. Yes, I've been to the chapels. It's
Yeah.
very nice. And so the Edgewood, is that going to be different than the current? I'm probably asking you to let a cat out of the bag.
Well, we're in our infant stages.
Oh, gotcha.
But, you know, what we're looking at is kind of a circle of mausoleums. And in the middle, what we'd like to have is some fountains,
I see.
water features. We want to keep some of the hardwood forest kind of in the middle of that. And that's my personal preference, would like a labyrinth so that people can, you know, walk, and maybe an ossuary. These are all things that are on the table that haven't been decided yet, but we're in the process right now of getting approval to at least build the first and second mausoleum.
I see.
And,
Okay. Well, great. All the best with that. That
Thank
sounds
you.
like exciting planning.
Yeah, thank
So-
you. We are excited about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So when someone reaches out to you about burial options for their loved ones, what is the process that they go through? What do they do? Just pick up the phone and...
Well, it really depends if it is at need, meaning somebody in the family has passed away, or pre-need, which, you know, those are the people that are thinking ahead and want to make those arrangements so that their family is not burdened with that at the time of their death. So you have two avenues. So let's talk about at need. Somebody passes away and they don't have any plans at this point. Nothing's in place. Really, the first phone call is to the funeral director, because a body cannot be moved without the assistance of a funeral director. So the whole process has to have a funeral director attached to it. So the funeral director part and the cemetery part are 2 different entities. So the funeral director will come, they'll take the body, and then the family will go and basically talk about what they would like. You know, do they want the body buried? Do they want it cremated? Do they want to wake? You know, what's their desire? And each culture, you know, has something very, very different. If they don't have property prior to the death, then the next step is to call one of our memorial counselors. And they will gently walk them through whatever options that we have. They'll work with them hand in hand, and they want to make sure they understand. I mean, they just have such compassion. So they want the experience to be pleasant for them, even though it's in a time of sorrow. They want them to be able to walk out saying, you know what, we made the best decision for mom or dad or whomever, and we're happy with what we did. And so then, you know, they decide when they want the burial, who's going to be involved with it. You know, if they're associated with a church or a temple or a mosque, they might have somebody presiding over the funeral, or even saying, you know, prayers or words at the gravesite. It's really, it's a work in progress with the family, and sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes it is several days, because this is very difficult for many families.
Sure, yeah, it's final. Right.
So pre-need is really a lot easier. It's, you know, I think everybody has a bucket list. So when they get to a point in their age, they think, oh, I think I have to start thinking about this. And, you know, they'll come in and they'll just kind of come in seeking information. And they'll, again, sit down with a memorial counselor, and they'll give them a packet and the options, and if they want to go out and take a look at what we have, many times they'll come back and say, you know, I really like, and they'll make the plans. And once they do that, they really feel satisfied. You know, they feel like they've accomplished something, and that their family now does not have to worry about end-of-life planning for them.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. That's terrific. And we're going to take a quick break. A lot of interesting stuff. I appreciate it. My guest is JudieLynn Nassar McAvinney, President and CEO of Whitehaven Memorial Parks in Rochester. We'll be right back. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money, and my guest is JudieLynn Nassar McAvinney, and she's the president and CEO of Whitehaven Memorial Parks in Rochester. And we're talking about the different options and just the delight of Whitehaven Memorial Park. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've painted such a beautiful picture of the parks, which it is beautiful. So I want to go back to the pre-planning aspect of it.
Sure.
So as a financial advisor background, I help my clients talk about that because it really is a big relief for survivors, you know, when you've planned it. Plus the other part is, you know, prepaying it. There's money is set aside. So let's talk about that. So money is set aside, they prepay, they list the items that they want included. Walk me through that. So I come to you and I say, I want to prepay. What are my options? And
basically, you decide what type of option you want. Do you want to be in a mausoleum? Do you want to be in the ground? Do you want to be in the nature trail? Some people can't make up their minds, so they have the option of what we call a combo grave. Maybe the husband wants to be buried and the wife wants to be cremated. So instead of separate graves, they can be buried in, you know, one aspect. So there's varied costs for all of these. So again, it depends on what people want to do. Pre-planning for it is very important. I don't think people really kind of understand, you know, the cost of a funeral. It is exorbitant.
right.
And with each generation, as we get, you know, they become younger and younger, there's a whole different philosophy and mindset as far as, you know, what should burial be. So for my parents, it was a mausoleum. For my grandparents, it was in-ground burial. I don't know what my kids are going to do with me, but that's why it's important for me to kind of make those decisions now. But this generation wants something purposeful. You know, they want their loved one's memory to matter. So they want to, you know, plant a tree or get a memorial bench or, you know, do something other than an expensive, you know, funeral. So you have to kind of decide what you want. So do you want the big, you know, like the big white wedding, or do you want something that's very, very simple and manageable financially? So that's something I think you have to talk to your financial planner and basically say, all right, if this is what I want, what do I need to put aside in order for us to get that?
Sure.
And
just like any real estate, the price goes up, right? So the sooner people invest, because we're all going to die.
yes, you know, that's inevitable.
Right.
The one sure thing in life is that you will have an end.
Yes, right. So it's good to plan ahead. And do families tend to plan together now and buy a bunch of plots together?
Some do. You
Some
know,
do.
what will happen though is, let's say a loved one passes away, then it kind of hits, and they'll come in and they'll buy the plot for the loved one, and then they'll buy, you know, something for everybody because they want to be together.
Sure.
And I think that's important. If you wait, then those plots or those mausoleum the availability might not be there.
Sure.
So if you want to be together, you have to kind of think of it ahead of time.
Sure, sure. That's great. That's great. And what sort of burial and memorial service options are offered?
Well, we have memorial services, obviously. We have the chapels if people are wanting someplace other than, like we had talked about, the designated church or temple or mosque. So we have the services right there. They can bring in their provider or their priest, rabbi, sheikh, whatever they would like, and they can do the service right on campus. So we have two chapels. We have the Creation Chapel and we have the All Seasons Chapel. Creation Chapel holds about 50 All Seasons, probably a couple hundred. So we have the a variety for people that would like to have the service on campus. Your burial options are wide. Like we had just spoken before, you can be interred into a mausoleum. You can have a niche if you're cremated. We have glass niches, which really kind of showcase an urn. I kind of call that my curio cabinets because it's very, very beautiful. You've got the in-ground burials. You've got the combinations. You have the beautiful nature trails. So you can find a beautiful. You pick your rock, by the way. When we say it's quarried rock.
I see.
Yes, we get shipments of rock, and you can pick whatever beautiful rock you want,
I see.
and then we carve into it, and then you have to buy a plaque to go on, bronze plaque to go on it.
I see.
But it's placed, where there's availability in the nature trail, and people want their families to come and to walk the trails and enjoy it, not just to mourn them, but to enjoy their life as they visit their loved one. So there's several options for burial. I think that's what makes us really unique, is that whatever you want, we probably pretty much have it.
So a technical question for those plaques: does that somebody has to go outside, or is that something that the Whitehaven offers? How would do?
We do it. We have a marker coordinator, and she is amazing. And we have several different vendors.
I see.
I think what I suggest to families, as she does as well, some families want, they bury their loved one and they want to do the marker right away. And that's okay. But this is something that's going to memorialize your loved one forever. So we encourage the families to take a minute, sit back and really think about what you want to put on it. What is, relevant to that person? Did they like to dance? Did they like to, walk in the woods? What resonates with you that will help you to remember your loved one? And then let's put that into the marker. And so you can do some very creative things.
So it's not immediate. There's no time pressure to have to do that. Can
No,
be a little bit of time
not
for them
at
to
all.
think through about it.
Yeah, not at all. And again, some cultures need it, before the year end, before the year anniversary.
Got it.
But others will wait a couple of years till they can, put it together.
I actually had a client that had 9 children. She's passed, but we talked about it, so she ended up preparing and prepaying, and she bought a marker. But then she changed her mind a couple of years later. No, I changed my mind. I don't like that color. So I got another one. But it was great. I mean, she made the choice herself. She didn't want her children to have to decide, and one might dominate over the other. With 9 children, everybody would have different choices. But she changed it herself, and she decided what was going to go on it, except the date, the year, and the date of her death. So I thought that was really
that's wonderful. We don't usually prepay for markers because I mean it gets very costly, and we had that program a long time ago, and people could pay what $300 or $400 for a marker. Well, now that has quadrupled.
Yes.
So it's better for us and they change their minds. So it's better for us to just wait for them to, when they're ready, to come and make the marker. But for rocks, for the rock plaques, people do create their markers, and they'll put little date scrolls.
I see.
That can be changed. They'll have the birth date, but then the death date will be on a scroll. That can be carved whenever
I see. Okay.
they pass.
That's cool. Yeah, I was surprised that she went all the way out to getting it's a good thing to prepay, but anyways. So what is a certified celebrant?
So a certified celebrant is a non-denominational person that can perform a cemetery service, a memorial service, shall we say. And they're certified by the Insight Institute. So that's what's connected to Cemetery World. Mm-hmm. And again, it's for the families that don't have a connection with any group. Mm-hmm. And they want somebody to say some words of memorial for their loved ones. So our certified celebrant will sit with them, and they will talk to them, and they will put together a really beautiful ceremony. And they'll ask the questions, did they like music? What music did they like? So she can, provide it and play it during the ceremony. Was there a poem that they liked? Was there, tell us what signifies this amazing person in your life. And then she will, qualify it in the ceremony. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of cemeteries have this. We're very lucky to be able to offer that service. There are many families that would like their loved one cremated, but they die in the wintertime, and you really can't have a burial in the winter. So they'll wait till spring, but by then they just want to maybe do a graveside or a cryptside service, and they would like somebody to just say a few words, that's what the certified celebrant would do.
I see. Oh, that's great. That's terrific. It's like so really practically all the needs of someone who is having to prepare for the final stage of someone's life, in the end of life, if you will.
From the burial point.
Burial point.
Yeah.
Yes, excuse me. You're right, because there's many stages. But the burial
the
point.
funeral directors handle all of the
Yes, got it from the burial point. Thank you for clarifying that. So thank you. And how can you help those that are looking to pre-plan for the future? How do you actively tell people do you advertise that? How do people pre-planning? I think is a great idea. Do you actively get people to think about it, or just more?
Yeah, it's gentle advertising. It's more of making people aware of our presence. Hard sell is not anything you can do. I mean,
kind of tough. Yes, I'm with you.
That's not going to work.
Yes, of course.
So we have very gentle advertising spots on some channels, news channels. We'll do some advertising. We'll do a little bit of Valpak, but it's, like I said, very subtle. Yes. It's just very, very subtle. I did not mention yet, but we also have a cemetery in Rushville, in Canandaigua, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's called Lakeview, and it just sits on the hill and overlooks the lake. It's just very breathtaking. Oh wow! Very breathtaking.
What a delightful conversation. I think that it's very wonderful to talk about. I mean, it's a good thing to talk about the joyful experience of the burial in the site and the family to visit and learn more about Whitehaven Memorial Parks. I really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. I think we're trying very hard to demystify death and dying, and to educate people more in the process, because again, we said it's inevitable. We're all going to get there. And throughout now, many cemeteries in the United States, they're offering what they call death cafes, where you sit around the table like this, and you just talk about certain topics regarding death and dying.
I see.
And it's to educate people, and kind of, again, you don't want people to be afraid of the process, to embrace it. And it's been very, very beneficial, I think, at least the feedback that we're getting, that people appreciate that.
That's great. That was a delightful conversation. Thank you again, JudieLynn Nassar McAvinney.
It's a mouthful, I know.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a delight talking with you, President and CEO of Whitehaven Memorial Parks in Rochester.
Thank you.
And thank you, our guests, for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money. Until next time.